Yeah.
Craig made a really important point about clarity of mission. Uh, I think it may have been in the Post story that we went in there because we needed to push back Al Qaeda and stop Afghanistan from being a safe haven for terrorists. And we accomplished that probably within the first 10 years, and we probably should have got out then. When Obama, I think first his instincts were to get out, but the generals told him no. And again, it's so eerily familiar from Vietnam, where we had all those false measures of success that were, put in the American press. And but in any event, once you lose your clarity of mission, it's very hard for the military to succeed.
I do think there needs to be a real accounting of what our U.S. military knew and when they knew it, as the line goes. I have tremendous confidence in the men and women who were in the military. I've had a chance to meet so many of them over the years, but I do fear that the leadership, the military leadership, tells the civilian elected officials that with enough money they can get anything done, and thus foreign policy is made on the basis that we can be effective militarily with just a few more troops. We can take that town. Well, yeah, we can. Can we hold it? Probably not. And when you think of the $86 billion that's gone in there, the extent, the weapons purchases, the things we're leaving behind, we have now armed the Taliban to a level they never could have imagined, because the weapons are now theirs. And so I think that when Biden looked at this, the idea that you would just continue to feed a corrupt leadership group, military that really had no intention of fighting, literally feed them with food, salaries, and more weapons, it was simply going nowhere. But I think that our U.S. military should have been giving, as Al says, even 10 years ago, a much more sober set of recommendations to presidents than just, we can win this, sir. Just give us more money, more men, we can win it. Because there was nothing that makes you believe that. And when you look at the articles that will come out about the so-called Afghanistan papers, many inside the military, I'm guessing younger officers who were over there, saw what was happening, had serious doubts about our ability to be effective in that whole region.
One thing we haven't discussed that was probably very visible in the chaos this week was the failure of the State Department. I mean, State Department, why should it have taken so long to process all those visas and get ready for the, we knew we were going to withdraw. And, I've had, over my lifetime, I've had very mixed feelings about State Departments, starting with their position on the creation of the State of Israel, which was when I was very young. But that really is incompetence, and because, I mean, it was clear we're going to get out. I mean, Trump made this deal. Lord knows, incidentally, what the consequences of Pompeo negotiating with the Taliban were in terms of the quick falling of the Afghan government. But they knew we were going to get out, and why weren't they prepared?
I just feel like, wouldn't you love to have been a fly on the wall when some of these guys said we have 300,000 trained troops, right?
Right.
Without any cultural understanding of what that country's all about. I mean, this corruption was going to the guys in the field.
I mean, the soldiers weren't getting paid because the top guys were stealing all the money.
I bet you there's billions of dollars sitting over there in the Emirates, along with the leadership, and I wish we could go, freeze the accounts, for heaven's sakes. We ought to.
I feel like I haven't spent time there, but I spent a lot of time in India. And and especially in these rural areas. I mean, you know, they need water. You know, the idea of women's rights is so far from their day-to-day reality. They need food, they need all these kind of basic functions that we take for granted. And, you know, so you know, what they want is stability.
When you travel around the world and you go to places, I mean, you know, on the streets of Manila, people on a bus or on a truck look like the people at the airport in Kabul. But we, you know, Americans, when we process what we see, do it in the context of, you know, the way our society runs, and it is just you know, there is absolutely no connection between where we are and where those countries are.
So to validate that, Al, I had a dear friend. He and his wife were in Afghanistan as part of a USAID mission, and in a region where they moved fairly freely, but their mission was to convince the people growing poppy flowers for drugs to convert and grow crops that would, you know, feed people with vegetables, soybeans, whatever it might be. And they said, you know, we'll teach you how to do it. We'll provide you money and all that. Well, that's fine, except the warlord, if you worked with the Americans, came and killed your family. You know, so we're trying a rational approach to solve a problem, and all we're doing is pouring money into one of the greatest centers of opium now in the world, I guess.
Right. Which has been, I gather, a source of good funding for the Taliban too.
Right, exactly.
Why hasn't Biden been willing to, you know, acknowledge the failure better? It's just, it's so out, it strikes me as such a simple political instinct.
Nobody likes to acknowledge defeat, or and I think we're seeing that. I do think that they're going to, you know, we'll have congressional hearings. They're going to have an accounting of what they actually knew and how bad things were. And I actually think that the more that's understood, Biden may look better than he does today. It's like, well, he didn't execute the exodus very smoothly. Well, there's a whole lot going on in that country that would prevent that. But
well, and also I just say, like, the impact of social media. I mean, we're getting video out of that country that no one could ever have imagined during Vietnam. We have that iconic helicopter, but that's about it. I mean, it's like every 8 hours you get this breathtaking stuff going on there.
To that point, this does have serious consequences. I mean, imagine your job in another country is to develop informants and contacts and sources of information. And, you know, I say, don't worry, we'll be there with you. I don't know that you can believe that today. And that is a sad commentary, and it has consequences for us around the world.
I mean, I think he believes very strongly that he's right. He's believed it for a long time. He's fought, you know, he fought for that position in the Obama administration. And I guess, you know, for some people, it's just hard to sit back and say, you know, I blew that one. I made a mistake. But as Jack Kennedy showed after the Bay of Pigs, if you stand up, you know, and I read his statement, it was really interesting, because what he said was, you know, I bear responsibility for this. It happened on my watch. I approved it. Now, we're not going to talk about the details because that's inappropriate right now, but we'll get into those all at the appropriate time. And it's sort of what Craig is alluding to, that, you know, the investigations are going to bring out an awful lot of stuff because everybody wants to cover their own rear end. And so you'll get a lot more people talking than you could have ever imagined. But we'll find out what happened, and we'll see.
Now, another phrase that was kind of ringing in my ears as I thought about this, when you think of the consequences of the challenge of not getting this right, was Lyndon Johnson, who ultimately said, I will seek and I will not serve if nominated. President of the United States. I mean, this can be a total game changer, but I do think it's too soon to go there until we know more.
Right.
You know, the other thing is, I just don't think, you know, we'll see. Right now, this is front and center of the American people because the television networks and social media are dominated by it. Let's see what happens in 2 months. And, you know, booster shots are going to wind up being a lot more important than what happens in Kabul, I suspect. But
you know, we're still very early into this evacuation. I mean,
yeah,
the
right.
way they're going, it could be weeks, if not months. And, you know, with every kind of moment that they don't complete that mission, there's all sorts of things that can go on.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so here we are. Thank you all.